Hey, I'd like to start, first of all, thank a few people. LJ.
You're welcome, Steve.
And the great, as I've said before, between me coming up with saying, hey LJ, do you think we should have an exhibition together? And us actually being in this gallery going, yeah, this is the place, it was about 48 hours. So not much mucking around.
Getting shit done.
And we'll go down and talk to LJ in a minute. But I'd also like to thank Johnny LaRue and his good friend Jimmy the Fish for their design work. And I'd like to thank Anne for her great contribution and support. And when I became really obsessive, she didn't institutionalise me. That's the sort of person she is. I'd like to thank Alex and Liam and Penny from the gallery, who've made it really a pleasant experience to be here. And to Blasius Erlinger and Matt Mawson, who gave us a lot of help getting the land, that big one at the back there, which, unlike everything else in UC, is on canvas. Moving up. Fancy, whereas the rest of it was cardboard found by the people of Koala Park on the Gold Coast, the back of Burleigh. And I put a message out on the local neighbourhood group Facebook page, and people just came back with the stocks of cardboard that are in an average suburb. It's disturbing. And I'd like to thank the people who responded with ideas when I put out the appeal on Facebook, and tried out some early stuff, and people said, what do you got? And people came back with ideas and pointing out gaps in my thinking and other things you'd expect from my friends on Facebook. And they've made a great contribution. And I'd like to thank my other siblings, and Jilly's here this evening, and extended family who've been always very supportive. I'd like to thank Mum and Dad, who were the first ones who showed us how to buy art. And when they first made a buck, one of the first things they did was go on the back of Cabarita down Woolloongabba there, and we went down there and found an artist, and he had just the thing that they were looking for, and it lived forever on the living room wall with different places they lived. So thank you to them. And I'd like, above all, to thank Mervyn Moriarty, who are famous as the flying artist of Queensland. And, oh no, we don't know about him, but he actually, in the late 60s, early 70s, he'd fly around Queensland having art classes. And sometimes he came to Sunnybank and would have workshops there. And Niece sent me and LJ along to there to get Mervyn to assess our artistic capabilities. And Mervyn goes, this guy hasn't got an artistic bone in his body. Whereas the young one, she will fly far. As they say in flying artist circles. And yes, and so he was the original founder of the Sibling Rivalry that we're celebrating this evening. And so the LJ has... we want to know more about it.
So I had a beautiful, passionate, a beautiful, passionate speech the other night, which was the other night's speech, so this is kind of different. And our mate Ian came up to me afterwards and said, you didn't talk about your art. Just talk about feelings. But really, that kind of is my art, actually. That's what my art's about. So, I love to kind of distill what I'm seeing so that I can amplify the drama. That's kind of what I'm into. It's like, I love to see the patterns. I love a strong kind of form. Like Sherwood Arboretum, that was really exciting. Sarah was with me that day. She couldn't believe it when we drove our cars down and I just pulled out my little portable easel and whacked a massive canvas out and just went for it. And then I worked on it when we got back to the studio. But I love the drama. I love that a road goes somewhere because, that's life, isn't it? And it reminds me actually of the painting I did for Dad when he had a cancer diagnosis. And I just kind of, it was quite a similar image of a road kind of receding into the horizon, and so I was happy to revisit that actually, without so much death around us now, which is touch wood, which is good. But you know, that's life. It's a journey, and the road is colourful and interesting and shadowy and shaded and potted and all sorts of different shapes. Yeah, so I can sort of see the patterns and the drama. I also love the vibrations of the place, and you can really see that in the Brindle Creek Valley painting. So we've been going down the Brindle Creek Valley, that's the mountains up there. We've been going there for years. Our friend Toddy has a tree farm there, and so I painted that painting, the source for that painting, a long time ago when the trees were little actually. When I go to a place, I don't know, I'm just feeling the vibe of it there, and that's what I paint. I just really love to, simplify the shapes and try and get a feeling of the place. So these paintings up here are mostly from a beautiful day at Emily Point, where my friend Lisa and I took our kayaks, and we put the kayaks in the water, and then we had to paddle around quite a tricky rock wall. Once we were around the rock wall, and this beautiful, peaceful, flat ocean came before us, and there was mangroves, in the middle of the ocean. And lots of those paintings came out of that day. That's actually quite a good strategy. Over there's, I don't even know, it's at Woolloongabba, Brown Lake. And for those that know Brown Lake in Australia, there's a lot of tea trees around it. They give a lot of brown sort of colours to the water. But once again, I was just looking for the patterns, to sort of distill down the patterns to kind of feel the energy of that place. The little mural here beside it, my friends at the paddling club at Oxley said, "Oh, come on, Elch, come and paint a painting on the containers." And so I just thought, I said, "Yeah, sure, okay." It's about 5 metres by about 3 metres or something. It's quite a good painting. So I went and bought all the house paint, and then I thought, I better have a crack at painting it before I go on and paint it. So I painted an image of just a couple of trees on Oxley Creek. And once I did that little painting, I thought, right, I could do it. So I went over to Oxley Creek at 5 o'clock in the morning for a couple of weeks. I was going over at 5, because by 9 o'clock the sun was coming over and it was too hot. But you could get a few hours done in the sort of daybreak. And so for anyone who's interested, you can go over to Oxley Creek, just where the Pamphlet Bridge is, and there's a great big painting there of Oxley Creek with birds, yeah. So, and the flower paintings come about because they're almost like portraits of people. I often think of people as I'm painting, and that energy of that person comes out in the flowers. So the golden penders, there's 2 golden penders there. They're both, portraits of friends of mine, and just sort of thinking about the energy of that soul. And so the flowers are often portraits, strangely. And back from the bay is the birds, and our brother just bought a fancy boat.
Rude boat.
Anyway, so we invited Jillian and I and our auntie out for the day, and we went out to St. Helena Island. And as we were coming back, we were flying down the river, and the ferries were kind of going beep, 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 beep. And I was like, oh, the ferries are so friendly. And we're singing So Young and So Beautiful by gorgeous girl. Anyway, so we're singing, we're driving the boat, we're having the best time, and the gulls are flying beside us, like really excited about us flying along the river. And then another ferry is going beep, 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 and the guys slow down. I think we're speeding. And what I'm painting I'd like to tell you about is the painting up there of Tallawadra Creek. Stephen and my friends Annie and Penny and I come great weekend, staying in their place. And we were sitting, playing our guitars. I kind of broke away from the guitar playing to paint the picture from Stephen Ann's, just from their patio, their deck above Callaway Street. And then people coming out, Marlene, Steve-O. Anyway, the thing was that Penny, who has since died of pancreatic cancer, so really sad, but she came over beside me, behind me, and she put her hand on my shoulder and she said, "Oh, you're such a good painter." And it really meant so much to me to have Penny's approval, you know. And she's gone ahead now, but anyway. So there's, as you can see, my paintings are about motion and vibration and love.
As I'd like to say, captures the energy in nature, and it's an important thing for us to remember and to that we're working with it all the time. That, you know, part of it. And I think, as different as our artworks are, that theme will re-emerge as we have a look at some of my stuff. And it's a pretty interesting thing. LJ thinks it may be in the genes.
Yeah.
So 12 months ago, I wasn't a well man. I almost died. It was that close. I had an aortic valve replacement on my aortic valve replacement of my original aorta. And in the operation to put the TAVI, as they like to call, up your groin and into your heart, they give you a lot of drugs to prepare you and dehydrate you a lot so you fit on the table. And so I started tripping, and I am familiar with experience, so that's why I can assure you it was a trip. And before the operation, I was convinced that I had become the centre of a sacrificial cult. Oh my God. And they were gonna do me in. And you know, the poor nerves, because I was going, I'm just leaving for a minute. I don't want to trouble you, I'm out of here. And she was doing all these, you know, setting all the drugs up in a you know, to drip into you as you approach the operation, so you're right prepared for it. And I was going, what? And it was like she was fiddling with little bits of paper or something. I said, "What's this hippie shit going on here?" And so she had a good laugh, and afterwards said, I wasn't the worst patient she ever had. And so as they were taking me up to the operating theatre, as you're starting to just drop out of things, they're talking about how they're going to fit me on the table. I'm going, "Oh, that's the sacrificial table." Not the operating table at all. And I was sure that the only way out was I was going to have to tackle an elephant that was, you know, guarding the place to get out. And then I woke up, and after being deep in the dark, with some readers of the Canto Times may know, where the most recent Canto Times has the full story of the operation. And we have some copies available if you haven't been lucky enough to buy one. They're going at a very reasonable rate for free. Now, is that a rap?
Small coin donation.
You'd be lucky. And I woke up and I'm feeling, I'm alive. This is great. I felt so optimistic and hopeful. And that went on for days, as well as, you know, the birds hopping around the ICU. This strange writing going on by itself in the corners of the room, and other strange things. And I'm so positive, I'll just start writing down some of these ideas that, you know, are making me feel positive. And so I wrote down a bunch of stuff in the back of my phone book, or my diary. It's my diary. And then the next thing I know, I'm staying up all night writing the Ballads of the Whitlam Dismissal. And the notes, the long essay with detailed notes that follows it. And I can recommend that. You can get it from the Canto Times site. Get a Canto Times if you're ever lonely at night. And so I'd done this writing and this spurts of energy. I get spurts of energy still, you know, do. And I was going, oh, what do I do next? And I started writing this stuff about poetry, about physics and the evolution of the planet, and positivism and other things that were going to not be very interesting to anyone at all. And I thought, oh, what can I do? And I thought, oh, I'll write down a grid of, it had been putting the ideas into an Excel spreadsheet out of the back of the book, out of the back of the diary. And I thought, oh, I'll put them down on a grid. I'll take some of those ideas and make a grid and put them down. And I'd like to introduce you to the grid right now here. This is the proof of the activity. And I wrote the ideas, lots of the ideas down. And I thought, I'll just start colouring them in. And a bit of a pattern started to emerge in the colouring in of the things being in stripes and sometimes on stripes and various things going on there. And I thought I could take this further. There's something happening here. I like drawing these little squares, but maybe I could do something bigger. And so one evening I sat down and did Good Vibrations, that one right there, that Auntie Betty's already got her hands on. And I was just going, well, that was just totally freeform with old paints that are under the desk on a bit of cardboard. And I thought, oh, it's got something. And then I started doing it in more regular squares and colouring them in and different kinds of patterns. And so these little ones are quite early in the process. Space Speed Spiral, Mental Magic Mantra, Steered by the Stars, Mystic Matter Matrix, Absent in the Abyss, Alien Rhizome. And then I tried doing, above Alien Rhizome there's one with lots of boxes with more words. And there's something going here, but it's not quite right. And then I thought, maybe I could do something bigger. Mystic Matter Matrix, that kind of gives me the idea of doing a matrix of things. And that's when I started doing the medium-sized ones that have, with the stripes in them, and playing around with the 8x5, the golden ratio, and they're, I was playing with reading up colour theory and playing with colour theory a bit, and that's when they started to come out in quite a good kind of way. And so by the magic of splashing a bit of paint around, I started doing these size ones. And the first one I did is actually in the front there. She's looking to go out. A very wise artist has already bought that one. It's gone, oh yeah. That'll fit into my house without any trouble at all. And it's the Mystic Matter Matrix. And when you look more closely at the words, you'll see there's names of people. And the people that were on the original list that I'd have dinner with, or if I could. And something about them or some response to them. And so it goes, Walter Benjamin, Kabbalah, Protocol, Aura, Hannah Arendt, Free Thinking Foxtrot, Lewis Carroll, Wonderland Watusi, Peggy Guggenheim, Surreal, Shiva, Samba, Music of the Spheres, William Blake, Space Speed Spiral, Long Key to the Barricades, Planet of Love, Allen Ginsberg, Anarcho Green Commune, Elaine Blair. Very central figure, Elaine Blair. Who is Elaine Blair? Thank you very much. She's Mrs. George Orwell. For anyone who's read Wifedom, she's the brains behind Animal Farm for sure. If not, and she was the one who ran the office of the poem, the guerrilla group, the military group that George was in during the Spanish Civil War, made famous in his book, The Homage to Catalonia. And so Elaine is kind of like this figure that kept George going, kept him directed, making him cups of tea while, she was digging shit into the garden to get the vegetables to grow on the barren Scottish isles they were living on, and other parts of the George Orwell story told from a really different perspective. And so that's, and so there's, each square has its own story. So I'm not going to try and tell them all to you, but you get the idea. The second one I did was Eclectic Ephemera Epiphany, and they were just words on that original grid, and I sort of put them together in a different kind of way. And the words go: mind, magic, mambo, all you need is love. Alien rebel riser, good vibrations. Chaos and cacophony, geodesic dialectic howl. Lola loves Layla, big generation. Larrikin level a league, wild fox den. Gnostic skills, yin yang, big bang. Steer by the stars, cosmic consciousness, be your enlightenment. And so, you know, by the end of that, be your enlightenment, I was going, that's what I got to do. I got to be my enlightenment. And so I did a number of these on political themes, possible politics paradox. And for Keith, no need to stand up. I was prepared. I got the words. But you'll notice there's also another that one down there, possible politics paradox, was the one I originally did. And then when I got a bigger piece of cardboard, I thought, I'll have another go at it. You can notice some differences. Though the colours should stay the same. They call for this colours. And so the possible politics paradox goes, hey, modal mind thing. Marx Brothers, libertarian. Soci, A-list, Trotsky, democracy. Imagine Lenin. Not the Beatles, but that other Lenin. Fungi, fraternity. Pragmatic idealist, utopian realist. Words as play, lemonade lake. We are stardust, make change, overcome. Nietzschean Nirvana. And so by that time I was sort of, as you can see, just, you know, playing with ideas, but the idea of a Nietzschean Nirvana. Nietzsche hated Buddhism and Eastern religions, and so I thought, what a fitting place for him to be, and arriving in Nirvana and go, oh, it was right. And, you know, and there's something in Nietzsche, you know, that will to power, which is really a will to freedom in many ways. And so then, yes, there's the autonomy zones, and there's two of them as well. You'll see populist autonomy zone over here, and autonomy attempt zones over here. Nimbus, Aquarius, 1973. Paris Commune, 1870. Catalonia, 1937. Library of Alexandria. Those will be in the Library of Alexandria. Woodstock, 1969. Pirate Havens, 1742. Cedar Bay, 1976. Andy Warhol Factory, 4ZZZ, 1975.
Yay!
Duff Dance Party, Hyde Ashbury Diggers, Kronstadt, 1921. Canto Times, Thomas More, 1516. Abbey Medieval Festival, Psychedelic Utopia. And so they're all historic places except for Psychedelic Utopia, where people try to find their own level of autonomy. That kind of was fitting into Utopia Now, or the Yes. And so I went on and going, oh, this is working well. I'll take it further. Let's talk about future ideas and ideology. Right up there. Abolish war, post-materialism, sentient democracy, AI suffrage, global referendum, votes for trees, food ubiquity, workers' play, rebel rhizome ring, gross domestic happiness, free power, co-op capital, cosmic citizen, the wisdom test, end of government, utopia now. And so there's some suggestions for ideas that could be pursued as the future goes on. And I like the idea of sentient democracy because it is so. What is it? Could it be democracy where feelings play a greater part? Could it be a democracy of all sentient beings? And that's why when AI gets its sentience, we should welcome them in. They're our friends. Make them friends. Become buddies with AI. So I'm also, as we'll find, a bit concerned about AI. As we we see in the Utopian Utility Union, these are organisations any good utopia would require. And, of course, there'll be just friendly groups of people getting together to do things like Psychic Rescue Squad. I'm here, I'm with the Psychic Rescue Squad. Injustice Response Team, coming down hard. The Happiness Force.
Yay!
Poverty Eradication Group. Equality Enforcement. Instant Garden Install. You need a garden? Talk to us. Alien Friendship Ring. The Fungi Fraternity. There's no getting rid of those guys. Friends of the Earth. Larrikin Leveler Lyceum. Art Life Integration. Deluxe Delight Department. Who wants to join that department? Well, I'll be Departmental Secretary. Hope Restoration Scheme. The Anti-Algorithm Alliance. Planet of Love League of the Planet of Love League. The Matriarchy.
Yay!
I know my audience. And so, if I might just briefly take a moment to go, as you notice, there's, I've mentioned a couple on the copy, and a bunch of the little ones are replaced and available for a first time tonight. Because we sold so much stuff the other night, I thought I'd happen to have some reserved. Well, and it's not because they were bad or anything, but someone very wise person said, "Less is more, Steve." Thank you, Anne. And so actually it was quite true by pulling a bunch, I had about 30 pieces. When I first arrived, I wanted to put them all on walls. And I thought, no, about 20 would be probably a much better thing. So then when we sold the stuff the other night, I thought, here's our chance, we can get it back on the wall. And so that explains why there's some available for purchase, should you be interested. But one of the people who gave me a lot of influence, as we heard from the first name I said to you, Walter Benjamin, sage and seer, a very interesting guy. Not everyone knows about him, a German Jewish person who had to get away from the Nazis, was kind of like in everyone's groups but never quite fitted in, a communist and a follower of the Kabbalah at the same time, the Jewish book of esoteric knowledges. And he had a lot to do and say about a whole range of things that, but never could join up with any group. Anyway, here's Walter Benjamin, is just on the wall there. 1892 to 1940, mystic matter master, Berlin boy, anti-war student, tragic thesis, one-way street, kids radio pioneer, hashish protocols, art aura tech, Paris arcades, Frankfurt flaneur, Karl Marx, Kabbalah, Blanqui to the barricades, history is catastrophe, suicide to escape the Nazis. And that was the kind of guy he was. When he had been captured by trying to get into Spain, by the Spanish police, and they said, we'll hand you back to the Vichy, who would then hand you back to the Nazis, and he was on the Nazis list, because he'd been on radio talking to kids in Germany through the late 1920s and early 1930s. And so it was kind of this, anti-authoritarian figure from that work. And so the Nazis were really keen to get him. He was certainly on their list. And he decided to suicide rather than, give in to the Nazis. And so that was very much the kind of guy he was. And then I thought, this kind of works. Maybe there's something else I can do with these, with this approach, with these styles that aren't so political. And so I started just playing around with things, and it's not up there because it sold off and was very popular. But ironic satire parody looks at different kinds of amusement. Acerbic wit, Diogenes the cynic, cutting sarcasm, Horace juvenile, make a mockery, swift Pope, trenchant derision, Lenny Bruce, incongruity, a modest proposal, travesty, lampoon, ridicule, Private Eye, Spoof, Stand-Up, Monty Python. And another one that came out of that sort of experience, Problems with Reality, the one at the back, at the top there. Physics Fusion Failure, No Theory of Everything. Observer Effects Experiment, Wave Particle Mix-Up, Schrodinger's Cat. Distant Entanglement, Space-Time Turbulence, Absent in the Abyss. Hyperreality, All is Simulation. Data Overload, Disassociation, Psychosis, Poor Instrumentation, It's All in the Mind. Confabulation. You know, those couple were just about sort of themes that I thought I'd like to explore. And then Anne's sister was up, and she loves these word search quizzes. And one day she's reading out this list of words that sort of hung together in an interesting way. I said, "What's that?" She said, "They're on the word search." And so the words you have to search for were in alphabetical order. So we're immediately alliterative. And there it is, existential dread, what they are all about. Absent in the abyss, bare, barren, blank. Chasm crisis, dead, defunct death, dire despair. Empty, 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 extinct, hollow hole, meaningless. Nil, null, none, naught, nausea, nothingness, nix, oblivion, obsolete, the pits. Vacuum, vacant, void, vanish, voodoo, zero, zilch, zip. And then I had another one of going, I live in Burleigh Heads, there's got to be one about surfing, and the surfing safari syndrome. Bombora, Big Wave, Beach Boys, Burleigh Banger, Good Vibrations, Gidget, The Duke, Endless Summer. Surf Crazy, Soul Surfer, Crystal Voyager, Morning of the Earth, Ride the Wild Surf, Storm Rider, Stapper Rocks, Blue Hawaii, Tubular Swells, Beach Party. And one of the last ones I did in this group was Land of 1,000 Dances. And because we mentioned a few dances, they were on the original list, that was one of the lists was of dances. Surreal, Shiva, Samba, Mind Magic Mambo, Wonderland, Watusi, Free Thinking Foxtrot, Existential Twist, Punk, Pogo, Polka, Tantalizing Tango, Joy, Jump, Jive, Mess Around, Surfy Stomp, Cha-Cha-Cha, Shimmy and Shuffle, Jazz Ballet, K-Pop Until You Drop, Lindy Hop, Doof Dance Party. And so, yeah, that's I'd started writing bad poetry, and in the end I was writing this stuff that had a life of its own. And so I did a few strange things, at people's suggestions. Blasius Erlinger is actually a famous German fashion photographer who happens to live down the road in Burleigh Heads half the time, half the year. I said, "Can you come around and take some photos of this stuff I've been doing?" He said, "Oh, sure, Steve, you crazy guy." And he took that list of photos, and he finished taking the photos, and he said, "You know, Steve, they look really good together." And so he sent me the photos, and I said to Matt Mawson, who works on the Cato Times, the graphic genius, have fun. I said, "Can you stitch these together, Matt?" And he goes, "Yeah, I can do that." And we had a few goes to get, the colours so that they sort of came together in some way that we kind of, didn't quite understand. Yes, they were good on. So this feels good. And so it was not cheap to get it printed on canvas, damn canvas. People said, "Stay with the one format, Steve." And said, "Oh no, canvas is good," and stretch. And then, some people walked in on Wednesday night and went, "We must have this." And they're a bit concerned they might have to build a new wall in their house. But that's the plan. And so, just in summing up, what was I trying to do here? And it was quite interesting how as I started to put ideas together, they kind of took on the life of their own and started to sparkle in their own way. And I thought, this is a pretty good way of generating some new ideas. And this was the height of Trumpism going on. And I thought, you know, that's what we need. You know, we need, you know, answering Trump by going, oh, we must be responsible and sensible. You know, not likely to work. But going, we want utopia now, Donald. You know, get out of the way. It's much more realistic in many ways if you think about it. And and I realised that I'd been creating a machine for new ideas, or the magical meaning machine. And then, wait, that's us. We are magical meaning machines. That's our job. You know, we came as stardust. We developed the ability to think, and that's what our purpose is in the whole universe. Back to the start of, you know, what's going on in the wild reaches of physics. Our purpose is we're the ones who create meaning. And, you know, as the history of the universe is eventually written, they'll go, those wacky humans always creating meaning. And, you know, kind of like, that is our purpose. And so it's worked, and it's been very good and health-giving for me. And while for a time it did look like obsessive craziness, sitting in the gallery and seeing it on there, and people go, oh, the colours kind of work, Steve. Oh, you know, this idea, what's going on there? And you go, this is what I was supposed to be doing. Thank you very much for coming and joining my